First things first, do not take advice from people you don't want to be like. If you're trying to start a business and somebody's like, oh, well, that's a really bad idea and you're stupid, look at them immediately. Do they run a successful business? No? Okay, then don't listen to them.
Welcome to Masters of Home Service, the best podcast for home service pros like us. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester, and I want you to crush it in business. Newsflash, you don't have to have a formal education to start a business. And my guest today is the epitome of that. He's the entrepreneur's entrepreneur. He started with nothing. He started young, but he had a dream and he went after it. Tactically speaking, how do you educate yourself? How do you learn how to do your trade? How do you learn business in the real world? We're gonna get into all that today with Hunter Patrick. Hunter, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here. Tell our audience who you are, what you do, all that. You're the king of junk removal.
Yeah. So my name's Hunter Patrick. I own a junk removal company in Forsyth County, Georgia, and I've been doing that for about 4 years. And I also do coach new entrepreneurs on starting a junk removal company, and I've been doing that for about 1.5 years now.
Bingo. Well, let's get into it because you really are just the ideal person to inspire other young people to get in a business. You know, you started with not a whole lot, nothing, right? Yeah. And you're fresh out of high school. Were you in high school?
Yeah, I dropped out of high school.
Dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do all this?
Well, the reason I dropped out of high school was because my mom got laid off from her job and she wasn't going to be able to pay the rent. So I started working for a landscaping company to come up with like some money, worked a few jobs, and then I just knew I wanted to start a business. And that entire time I was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? I had 8 businesses fail, from drop shipping, landscaping, pressure washing, all over the board. And then, finally we found an idea that worked, and I went all in because I had been looking for the ball. I've always said, if you give me the ball, I'll run with it. Mm-hmm. But I just never got the ball. And then once I got the ball, finally got the idea I wanted and I knew it was going to work, proved it, I just ran with it.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to get into whether you just run a straight line with the ball or do you zigzag. I think you can learn in the real, because you didn't have any formal education. You dropped out of high school, no college, no MBA, God forbid, none of that, but also no trade school, no, none of that either. And so what would you say? How did you learn this stuff? Because business isn't easy.
Yeah, honestly, I learned from falling on my face. That's why I said, business, you got to be tough. I say this all the time. You have to be tough to be in business because the amount of times you're going to fall on your face, you make, I had $1,000 a day and then a tire pops. And it's like, oh my God. And then, or a wheel falls off or something happens. That's just part of business. The way I learned it was really just, like I said, falling on my face 1,000,000 times, failing, trying stuff that doesn't work, getting frustrated and then trying something else. And then you do that until something works.
Yeah.
And so it really just took a lot of time.
Any idea why junk removal stuck for you? You said you tried 8 different things.
Yeah, because it worked.
Any idea?
It's the only reason. I enjoy doing it. So I like being out in the sun, right? I like working hard, but it really just, it worked. It's the only thing that worked. I tried a bunch of different stuff. It kind of worked. Didn't really make it as much money, but with junk removal, something about it where the customers liked who I was able to continuously close jobs. I was making money hand over fist. It's like, why wouldn't you stick with something like that? I can't walk away from that. Yeah. And so once it really started working, I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And I actually enjoy it. So
yeah, I think you also failed forward. I think those 8 learning experiences were not wasted. I think you learned subtly what was working, was not working. You kept adjusting the steering wheel each time you failed.
That's why it's falling on your face and not falling on the back of your head, because you're falling a little forward. Yeah. And when you get up, you're like a yard farther. But, that's just it. It's like you're falling in the right direction, but you just have to keep falling until,
You seem like a confident guy. You seem but at the time, self-doubt, was that a problem at all? Were you, tell us about that.
Yeah. All the time, man. My biggest thing was I always put on this facade. You kind of have to fake it till you make it. You know that, right? Right. So it's like, it's not about faking it like buying nice cars you can't afford or buying luxury watches you can't afford. It has nothing to do with it. It's having an unshakable self-confidence that it's going to work and exerting that into the universe and to people that you're around, even though in the back of your head, it's probably not going to work.
This might not work.
But you're like, it's going to work. You keep talking about it. I know I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And you do that. Mm-hmm. But in the back of your head, constantly at night, you're like, it's not going to work. It's my business is failing. Everything's going to fall apart. That's just part of it.
Yeah. And here's the thing though, the secret to that is that's true. Unless you can't just say I'm going to succeed and just sit in your basement all day.
No. Yeah.
But when you're doing activity and you're doing, going, and you're churning, at some point, eventually something's going to stick.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's like how many, it's all a numbers game. This is what I tell, my coaching students and guys that I talk to all the time is like, it's all a numbers game. If you're going to go advertise to 5 people, what are the odds you get a client versus if you advertise to 100 people? It's the same thing in business. If you try one business and it doesn't work, what are the odds one business works versus if you tried 20 times? If you try 20 times, something's gonna work.
So you didn't give yourself a formal education, but you gave yourself an education.
Absolutely.
Some of it was just by failure and learning. How else did you manage to learn the principles of business, learn how to hire and get the right pricing, how to be profitable? How did you learn all that stuff?
Be comfortable. Well, you actually don't even have to be comfortable. Just be brave enough to walk up to people who are successful in business and ask questions. Like I had a lot of clients that were very successful in business. You see this in any service business. I'm sure you've experienced it. Yeah. Guys with 5, 10, $15 million houses, super wealthy. And you just have to ask, what do you do for a living? Well, I do this, and that. Everybody likes talking about themselves. So I always was asking, like, hey, I'm kind of in this little bubble in my business. Like, how should I go about fixing it? And you ask 5 different people that, you get the sum of the answer, and then you do that. Because even though everything works different for everybody, there's kind of like a collective answer to hiring. Like, what are you looking for? Right. That's how I figured that out. I continuously asked people who were already successful in business what they did in my situation, and they gave me that answer. Yeah. Like high school didn't teach me that. I was never taught by a teacher, oh, well, whenever you're running your business and you're making 6 figures, like they don't teach that. So like, you got to ask somebody who's in that position.
I started listening to a podcast in 2011 called Entrepreneurship. It's Dave Ramsey's business podcast.
Dave Ramsey, yeah.
And I listen to it today still.
Really?
And I just think back on the last 14, 15 years of listening to that every week. The number of things that I avoided tripping over because that podcast was so profound. And I went to school and went to college, and I didn't learn anything about business in college. I learned way more from that podcast.
Yep. I mean, honestly, I've learned more failing and talking to other business owners than I would have ever learned even going to business college. I'll give you an example. I have a guy in my area that's a direct competitor to my company. And me and him are good friends, right? Because we started our companies at the same time. He reached out to me the other day and he was like, how did you scale so far? Like, how have you done so well? And I was like, well, I've been doing it for so long. This is all I've done for the past 4 years. And I was like, what issues are you having? And he's like, well, I'm balancing school. And I'm like, well, what are you doing in school? He said, I'm in business school. So I asked him, I said, how long have you been in business school? He said, 2 years. I said, have you learned more in business school than you have running your business about business? And he said, no, I've learned more running my business. I said, then why are you in business school?
And you were making money and he was spending money.
Yeah, exactly. He's making his money and handing it over to the college. And I'm not against business school. Like, I think there's certain things you can learn. But when it comes to running a service-based business, it's like, how many guys that are business professors really know about running $1 million service-based business, right? Yeah. Like the odds are they don't. And half of them haven't even ran a business. So, I think you're better off just go out there and ask questions, go to YouTube University, watch guys like me and you who own businesses talk about how to run a business and do it that way. That's just the way to learn is learn from people who have actually done it. That's where coaching comes in. Like, I'm a coach. There's a bunch of other coaches out there too. If you want to do landscaping, find a guy who does landscaping, is successful at it, that can teach you how to run the business. I mean, you could shave off 3 years and get to where he's at in a year and a half because you avoid the 3 years of mistakes. Yeah.
We are preaching to the choir because someone's listening to this podcast right now and they're literally doing that thing we're saying, which is learning about business from other business owners. And so, if you're listening to this right now, you're in the right place. What about the criticism and the comparison? Let's say someone's out there right now wants to start a business, but they're afraid of what their parents are going to say. They're afraid what their friends are going to say. All their friends went off to college, or all their friends are making money doing something else, whatever. And there's just a lot of comparison game. There's a lot of criticism or self-doubt. How do you overcome that?
First things first, number one thing you need to know, do not take advice from people you don't want to be like. If you're looking, let's say your parent, and I hate to say this, I've said this about, people in my family. It's like, I can't take advice from you because you don't know what my situation's like. I'm running a, almost 7-figure business. You can't teach me anything. So I can't take advice from you. If you're trying to start a business and somebody's like, oh, well, that's a really bad idea and you're stupid. If that's the case, right? Look at them immediately. Okay. Do they run a business? Do they run a successful business? No. Okay. Then don't listen to them. Go ask an entrepreneur. If like me coming up to you in the street and be like, hey man, I really want to start a service business. I know what you're going to tell me. You'd be like, yeah, man, do this. What kind of business you want to start? Don't take advice from people you don't want to be like. That's number one.
I totally agree, man. And I think that in the beginning, when you're starting a business, you have a vision. of where you want to go. And I'm not saying we have these huge visions of, but like we do have a vision, even if it's just for the next 3 months. We have a vision where we want to go. We know we want to do this. We want to blaze our own trail. We want to build our own business, and we don't really know what the outcome is going to be ultimately, but we have an idea. And when you bump into people along the way who basically just throwing shade at you and they're doubters, or oh, that's not going to work. Oh, you can't do that. You're not smart enough for that, or whatever doubt, you have to be kind, but you have to just ignore it. Ignore the noise.
Yep, absolutely. You gotta just ignore it. I mean, if I were to come up to I would never say that to somebody who's trying to start a business. I'd never be like,
I wouldn't either.
I
wouldn't either.
It's only really people who are, and at least in my own experience, that are envious because they know you have the potential to do it. They know you're smart. They know you can make money. They just really don't want you to be more successful than them. So they try and bring you down. The biggest thing is just shut everybody up by just working. Like, it doesn't matter. Just do what you got to do.
Hunter, this is fantastic. I want to pause for a minute to talk about Jobber and why we like Jobber so much. How has Jobber really shaped your business in a positive way?
Well, like I said in the past, I spent a lot of time scrolling through text messages, trying to find customers, figuring out how much I quoted, missing jobs because I forgot that I had to go to them. If I would have started my business with Jobber originally, I wouldn't have ran into all the problems that I ran into. Like not knowing I had a job that day, scheduled it a week out, but forgot because I didn't have a schedule to put it on, right? I was just using text messages, showing up to jobs and not knowing what I quoted because I didn't put it anywhere because it was in a text message, when you could just put it all into one platform and have it all there.
You can either have order or chaos.
Exactly.
If you're not using Jobber, you need to today. It's good for any size business, and you need to start using it right now. Go to jobber.com/podcast deal. Get the exclusive discount and start using Jobber today. What would you say is one of the biggest keys for being a young entrepreneur?
Take advantage of your youth. People love, and I can't stress this enough, customers and people love seeing a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid out there working his butt off.
Yeah.
They love it. When you show up and you're like, yeah, this is my business, they are going to recommend you all over the place. It's only going to do well. Like, I would take advantage of your youth. I was doing 21, 20, I swear I have timestamps, like 21, 22-hour days back when I first started my company. And I would come home and I would sleep and I'd get up 3 hours later and I'd go back to work. Take advantage of that. I'm 24 and I really would not like to go back to that point, right? I don't know if I could do 21-hour days. If I had to, I would, but it sucks. So when you're young, it's like you don't feel not sleeping. Like I remember like it'd be a week straight of like no sleep and I just didn't feel it because I was just so adamant about building my company. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of the time you have and take advantage of what people think about young people, young, ambitious people. They're like, oh, you're so much older than you actually are. You're like you have an old soul. I've heard that a million times. So take advantage of that. Go work, take advantage of it, right? Have customers recommend you because you're young and you're much more capable of recovering after a hard day when you're 21 than when you're 35, right?
Right. Yeah. I also think that, and you didn't say this, but I'll say this for you. I'm sure that people are also attracted to your humility.
Yes.
And just your demeanor of like, I'm just new at this. I'm just starting out. Would you please hire me? If you went in there with arrogance or just any kind of attitude or disrespect, but you're saying, yes, ma'am, you're saying, yes, sir. And that's what people really love. They love a young man who's also respectful.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because it's hard to find. I've heard that from customers. It's like, how many times do you come across a 21-year-old kid who runs a business, who's very polite, who respects your time, doesn't interrupt you, isn't rude, right? Isn't arrogant. Like you said, like a lot of these guys, they make 19-year-old kid, you give him $100,000, he's going to think he's the man. Right. So they build this big ego up and nobody likes to be around that. I don't like to be around that. Like I've been around billionaires that are just normal people.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's no reason. Right. So yeah, I mean, being you and being personable, but at the same time, just being respectful, being polite.
How do you stay humble?
Honestly, what keeps me humble is knowing that if everything were to go, I say this all the time. So like I've gotten pretty adamant on social media. Like I've gotten a pretty good following. If social media goes away, what I'm just Hunter, right? And so like if all the money went away, what person am I without the money and what person am I without the social media? That's important. So you have to stay the person because in my mind, it's just an addition. It's not me. I'm not an Instagram page, right? I'm me. So you get rid of all of that. I'm going to be the same person. So I think if you operate under that idea that none of it actually exists, it's just something that was given to you like a gift, then it really keeps you humble. And, like I said, my mom being sick, it humbles you. Like life humbles you. You're just a person. You're not invincible. There's always a bigger guy, right? There's always somebody stronger, somebody more attractive, somebody richer. You're never going to be the biggest and the baddest. So just be confident in who you are and use your success as leverage to be a better person, be nicer, be more polite, tip more. Like I always tip like 30, 50% just because why not?
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with your character,
Yeah. Well, you said it, character. I mean, when something bad happens to your loved ones, it brings tremendous clarity to your life. And you're absolutely right. All this gets stripped away and you're left with who you are, your character. And if our listeners are young and they need to focus on that, they need to focus on being the man or the woman they want to be, that they'd be proud to be, not just about the money or the business or the success, but like the character really matters.
I also think money amplifies. So I've seen this a lot, is like money makes you more of who you were before. So money makes you no different. Like money, they say money changes people. I think money shows you who the person actually was. So if you're a really nice person, you come up on money, you're just going to be a nice person. You're going to donate money. You're going to tip more. You're going to be more generous. But somebody who wasn't necessarily a good person, but kind of put on a facade, they get money. Well, now they have respected power. What do you do with that when you're evil? Right? You take advantage of it. So I really think just money amplifies. I think it makes you more of who you already were. So it's really easy to tell of successful people what kind of people they are, right?
Yeah.
Because they have no reason to be mean. They have like the life.
Right.
So why would you be mean?
Yeah. I also think that having just like humble attitude in terms of like being able to learn from just about anyone, I think is really important, especially if you come across another entrepreneur who knows more than you do, all that kind of stuff. I think just having this humble attitude of like, hey, I want to learn something from you. Will you please teach me? Can I take you out to lunch? I think you definitely have that characteristic. And because I think that unfortunately the opposite can be just so unappealing. And, but you need to have a soft demeanor towards like how much you know. There's always more I can learn, and just being coachable.
Nobody likes to know it all.
Yeah.
I hate when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, yeah, what if you did this? And they're like, no, I know what it's supposed to be. Like even me, I have guys that I coach that's starting their junk removal companies. They're like, oh, well, what if you tried this advertising strategy? I'm like, that's a really good idea. These guys, I mean, in comparison, business wise, I mean, they're like where I started, but I still take advice because that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
But you have to be open to that. You have to be open to understanding there's a lot more for you to know and to learn. And you can't shut that out. Or honestly, it hurts you if you do.
Yeah.
Somebody might give you $1 billion idea that you just shut down because you thought you knew it all.
Hunter, there's someone out there right now who's 20 and he dropped out of high school too. And he's trying all these different things. What would you say to him?
What would I say to essentially my 20-year-old self?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to take risks and throw everything away in pursuit of what you want. If you lose everything, you're not really losing anything. At 20 years old, you might still live in your parents' house. If you do live on your own, you can always go back to your parents' house. Take the risk now. If I can't take the same, well, I can, but because I have the financial security, but if I was in the same financial position when I was 20 right now, and I had to start taking risks, I couldn't because my mom needs me. I have to pay and take care of my mom. I can't take the same risks I used to, right? So you need to do it when you're young and do it when you have essentially nothing to lose. Like go take the risks. Don't be afraid. Honestly, be scared doing it. I was scared getting on the plane. Just do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like just be okay with shaking while you're, hey, it's nice to meet you. Can you give me some business advice? Like just do it. Like you're going to die anyway. Like it's inevitable. There's no doubt that every single one of us in 100 years is going to be dead. So you might as well do it anyway. Like just go take the risk. Don't be afraid of losing everything in pursuit of what you want. And if you can adapt to that mindset, then you will be successful. There's no doubt.
What advice would you give to someone who wanted to find a coach or a mentor? Or what would you say is the difference there?
Yeah. So mentors typically are just people that are going to give you some advice. So like I had, a mentor, I could ask him questions whenever, but there's really no action in that. Like obviously they'll give you advice, they'll answer questions. A coach is somebody who's actively coaching you, like a soccer team, right? I'm in the trenches with you, right? I'm helping you build the business. I'm sitting here, okay, you're here, let's make this move. It's like I'm watching a chessboard and you're the one making the moves. Okay, make this move. Okay, now I'm watching this happen. Now you got to do this. That's what a coach is. A coach essentially is all about action. Somebody who's in the trenches with you, teaching you everything you need to know, always checking up on you, and essentially holding your hand while you're making moves. That's the way I would see a coach versus a mentor.
Yeah, I would agree. I've had mentors over the course of my life that I would check in with regularly, maybe 4 or 5 times a year, get lunch. And it's great. They're often mentors are local for me. And they're more like buddies, but they have a little more experience than I do. But a coach, someone you're paying for, and they are driving results in your business. They're making you better and they're making your business better.
Yep.
How do you find these people?
So you can find mentors by, going on social media, finding somebody who's in your business niche and just asking him, hey, do you mind if I ask you some advice? Like, could you be a mentor for me? That's pretty easy. Or like I had one of my biggest mentors was one of my customers. He sold his company for over 100 million. So like I needed his advice. And so we, like you said, we check up a couple times a year, do lunch, ask him questions frequently and whatever. A coach is a little different because when you're paying for something like that, you need to go find somebody you, let's say, like, or he's doing what you want to be doing. Let's say you want to run a junk removal company. I'm a coach, right? Well, how do you find me, right? You go on social media, you look up junk removal, you find the influencers and go each one and figure out what they do. What's their coaching program like? And figure out what fits with you best, right? Because some people want to scale their business from 50K to 200K a month. Some people want to start from zero. Well, there's probably different coaches for that, right? So you need to just go online, try and find somebody who is in your niche, landscaping, junk removal, whatever.
Yeah.
And figure out what they do as a coach and if that fits with what you're looking for.
Yeah. If I'm choosing a coach, I want to talk to somebody who's done it with them, like that was a student of theirs.
Absolutely.
Hey, tell me what it was like. 6 months, 12 months, how long you were in? Why'd you stop? Are you still in there? I want to find out, like the website says they do it this way, but they actually do it this way. It's a little bit different what they say on the website. It's still good, but I think knowing some of those nuances from someone who's in the program, testimonials are really important because otherwise you might just get a kind of a lousy one.
Yeah. I mean, you got to find, somebody who's, I've had guys in the past, direct competitors coaching wise and stuff like that, they're always pushing the same testimonial. It's always the same guy over and over again.
Yeah.
And it becomes a little stinky, a little fishy, right? Because it's like, why are there no other testimonials? Like you want to find somebody who's openly, like the first thing they say is go look at our results. Here's 100 people that have worked with us. Go listen to each individual, because it varies. Like I've had guys with me that started with no truck. I've had guys with me that started at $90,000 a month.
Right.
And they just wanted us to cut down their business, focus on independent marketing. Those matter. The difference between if somebody watches a guy that's making 90K a month, but they just started, they don't want to hear about that, right? Because they started at 90. These guys are starting from zero. How is this guy going to help me?
100%.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that with like, you mentioned YouTube University and someone who doesn't have the money or the funds for coaching right now, and you could make the case, you can't afford not to. That's a different story.
Yeah.
But like, if they don't have the money for that, maybe they're just starting out, YouTube is a great place to learn. Your generation's more of a YouTube University kind of guy. My generation is more podcasts and books. They're all the same resources. They're all good. But you need to, this podcast is a good resource, but there are so many. There's never been more resources out there to learn your niche, your industry, and then just business as a whole. There's so many ways to learn business.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube University, I preach it all the time. If you're not ready for a coach, or let's say you're just starting out, but you just want to get your feet in the ground first, go on YouTube, look up videos, how to make $1,000 with a pickup truck. Look it up, go through videos, see what they talk about advertising. A lot of the times they won't, like a lot of the stuff's gatekept, obviously for obvious reasons. Most people don't want to tell you how they're getting junk removal jobs, but go figure it out. Go on YouTube and look up tutorials. How do I do this? How do I mow it? How do I put stripes in a yard? Or how do I install an AC unit? Like you can figure all this out on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. So if that's the route you want to go that route, but it's just not really going to get into the like the really deep information about the business, like hiring a coach will.
Yeah. Hunter, this is great. I just think that people are inspired. I think that the younger generation listening to this can do all kinds of things now. I'm going to boil it down to 3 things I think people can do right now to really start their business or grow it. Number 1 is learn from your failures. You have to fail forward. You have to learn from your mistakes. If you keep learning from your mistakes, eventually you'll catch on, you'll get some grip, and you'll take off. Hunter had 8 failures before the success. And that's normal when you're starting something so new without any formal training whatsoever. Number 2 is ask people for help. You might have a wealthy client who is a business owner, who has a home service company. You never know who's in your network around you. have your eyes and ears open to those people. And once you find them, ask them for help. As long as you're humble, they will almost always want to help you. And number 3 is at least get yourself an alternative education, YouTube University, podcasts, books. There's a million different resources out there. And if you can, get a coach. It'll save you years of training, and they'll hold your feet to the fire, and they'll help you see around turns that you just couldn't see before. Hunter, that was great. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
What is your superpower?
I know this is crazy, but I think my superpower is being a completely normal person, because it's really easy for somebody who is completely fearless to take risk. They don't feel fear. I do. So I have to face courage and make a decision whether I actually want to do that or not. If I'm too scared, if I'm going to do it anyway. So I think that is my superpower, is being so normal that I have to face everything like a normal person. I wasn't born rich. I wasn't born completely poor.
Just a normal guy.
Yeah, just a normal dude who decided I wanted to start a business. It worked, and here I am.
That's great. How do people find out more about you?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Hunter Patrick Dumpire, on TikTok at Hunter P Dumpire, and YouTube at Hunter Patrick Dumpire as well.
Great. Well, Hunter, thanks for being here. You're killing it. You're the entrepreneur's entrepreneur. I really appreciate you inspiring our listeners and giving them some things to consider about how to start your own business, grow your business. It's really great. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening. I hope that you heard something today that will just inspire you to care about your character, to build your business and scale it the right way. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester. You can find me at adamsylvester.com. I want to hear from you. Tell me what you like about the podcast. I want to hear your suggestions and all that kind of stuff. Your team and your clients and your family deserve your very best, so go give it to them.